High above the vast open landscape, Superman descends, cape trailing behind him. Below him, a train thunders along a lonely stretch of railway that cuts through the empty countryside, its cars rattling as it approaches a danger it had no idea is waiting just ahead. The tracks in front of Superman have completely collapsed into a jagged black chasm, the rails twisted and broken like snapped bones, chunks of earth crumbling at the edges. He glances toward the horizon, saying, "If he wants to, he'll call." Back in Metropolis, Lois Lane sits buried beneath an avalanche of paperwork. Her desk a battlefield of scattered documents, open folders, and half-scribbled notes. She's multitasking without pause, typing with one hand, holding the office phone between her shoulder and cheek, and reaching out to accept a yellow sticky note being handed to her by a coworker, who explains it's the insurance filing number she requested for the railroads. Without missing a beat, Lois casually tells Clark that he could call him. Meanwhile, miles away, Superman rockets through the air at full speed, fists clenched, the wind tearing past him as he narrows in on the derailing train ahead, muttering, "He's the one who... he's engaged. He should call." Lois, still working, offers a quick thanks to her coworker as she moves another document into place. On the tracks, the train screeches violently as Superman plants himself in front of it, muscles straining as he forces its momentum to a stop. And through the phone, Lois's voice cuts in again, reminding him that just because he should call doesn't mean Clark shouldn't. Metal shrieks, wheels grind, and debris scatters across the ruined tracks as Superman forces the derailing cars back into alignment inch by inch. Straining under the force, he manages to slow the train. He then mutters, "I'm busy." Back in the Daily Planet office, Lois Lane extends her arm to pin a yellow sticky while saying, "Oh, you're busy." Superman pushes harder. "What? I am busy." The ground beneath him cracks under the pressure. Lois adjusts the phone on her shoulder, leaning back in her chair. She replies, "Right." Then, in a tone soaked in sarcasm, she adds, "And I'm sure he's sitting at home right now, twiddling his thumbs." From the dust and screeching metal of the train tracks, Batman soars between Gotham's towers, cape trailing behind him. As he grapples from one building to the next, he says, "I don't see why I need to call him." Nearby, Catwoman crashes her heel, connecting squarely with the jaw of a thug wearing a hockey mask. Over the chaos, she teases Batman. "I thought he was your closest friend." Batman, searching through a window, says, "I don't. Gordon is my closest friend." Catwoman flips another attacker and fires back. "What? No. He doesn't even know your name." Batman's gaze lands on a group of armed men guarding a large metal crate marked with a radiation hazard symbol, and he then says, "Fine. Alfred is my closest friend." Batman dives straight through a window, glass exploding around him in a rain of glittering shards as he drops into the room below. Before the thugs can even react, he's already moving, clearing the space with brutal efficiency. Meanwhile, Catwoman kicks open a door, saying that Alfred being on his payroll doesn't count. Batman fires back, "Am I not supposed to pay him?" He continues asking if she has any idea how many cucumber sandwiches Alfred makes every week. Catwoman then says, "Bat, my love, just call him." Batman takes down the thugs while muttering that he's busy. Catwoman effortlessly floors another criminal while saying, "Yes, you're busy, I'm aware." Huge thanks to Opera Browser for sponsoring this video. I've been using it recently, and honestly, it's made multitasking way smoother. I usually have music on, and Opera's floating music player is perfect for that. I can pick from the 7 streaming services available and control my music without interrupting my work. Also, I can move the player anywhere on my screen, even outside the browser, so it's never in the way. Plus, with the themes feature, I switched to the Aurora theme. It just gives everything a clean, modern look. If you want to try Opera yourself, check the link in the description or the pinned comment. It's free. Now, let's get back to the video. Far from Gotham's rooftops, in the dim glow of an underground parking lot, Superman tries to brush off Lois's latest suggestion, but she isn't letting him escape this one. She tells him she'd like to meet her, Catwoman. Superman insists there's no way that's happening, stumbling over excuses about how he can't let a criminal know their secret identity. Lois reminds him that Batman is his friend and colleague. Clark agrees, but Lois presses harder. She points out that Clark trusts Batman every single day to help save the world, but somehow doesn't trust him well enough to believe he'd choose someone trustworthy to love. Clark tries to respond, but every "well" dies halfway out of his mouth. Then Lois delivers the final blow. She has looked into her, and Catwoman is very good at finding what people try to hide. Considering how Clark chooses to hide his identity, Lois gently suggests she might already know. Clark, confused, asks, "How I choose? What is that supposed to mean?" Lois then gives him a soft, "Oh, sweetie." Perched high above the city on a construction crane, Batman and Catwoman interrogate a criminal who's hanging upside down from the beam, swaying helplessly in the wind. Catwoman balances on her hands beside him, and she then talks about the reporter who always writes about Superman. The one who looks just like him, but with glasses and slicked-backed hair, was never much of a mystery. She reminds Batman that she's a thief, and thieves find the hidden things. Crawling across the narrow crane on all fours, she says, "Remember? I found you." She then tells him that if this is what's holding him back, him debating whether to tell her, then he shouldn't bother. She already knows. Superman narrows his eyes, using his X-ray vision to scan through concrete until he locks onto the man they're looking for, a tall guy with close-cut hair, listening to jam bands. Lois immediately recognizes the description and says it's Kaczynski, Ernie's deputy over at RICC. That alone tells her something's wrong, and she's already pulling out a pen and notebook, realizing that if he came directly to them behind Ernie's back, this is serious. Superman shifts his attention again and spots something even more urgent, a massive boulder hurtling toward their location. He can't see who threw it yet, but someone definitely did. Lois doesn't waste time. She starts moving, telling Clark she'll meet Kaczynski first, get him somewhere safe, and get him talking. She then says to him, "You do your thing." Clark nods, gripping the edges of his jacket. Lois touches his arm and reminds him that after he does this thing, he needs to call. Clark tears open his shirt to reveal the Superman emblem underneath and simply replies, "Yeah." Up on the construction crane, Catwoman studies the terrified man dangling upside down. She tells Batman the guy looks just about done, and Batman agrees, just about. Catwoman asks if this method really works, and Batman gives the kind of answer only he would. When they're afraid, they talk to him. Catwoman smiles, telling him she finds that funny. When Batman asks, "Why is that funny?" she tells him because right now, he's the one who's afraid, and because he's afraid, he won't talk to him. Later out in a barren desert, Superman is locked in a brutal mid-air collision as an explosive impact scatters debris across the sands. While Lois, through comms, asks, "So, is he happy?" and follows it immediately with, "When do we get to meet her?" Superman, pinned and driven downward as rocks erupt around them, admits he didn't call him. Lois answers with a soft, "Clark." And Superman, knowing exactly what she means, even in the middle of being smashed, replies quietly, "I know." As the fight drags on, Lois continues talking to Clark, telling him this whole thing is clearly a thing, and Superman swears he'll call Bruce. But Lois pushes on, explaining she needs to follow up on the Kaczynski lead, dig into whatever 20 Corp is, and figure out why railroad insurance speculation is suddenly booming. All while Superman is being punched straight into the desert floor hard enough to crater it. She reminds him that tonight, after John goes to bed, they're setting time aside and they will talk about this. No excuses. As Superman's hand claws through the rubble and snaps off a chunk of stone while he tries to stand, he mutters, "Lois?" But she continues, "Tonight, no excuses. I don't care about how many worlds are crisising." The villain streaks off, escaping, and Lois delivers the final blow. "He's your friend. We need to fix this." Superman remains on the ground, bleeding from the nose, buried in debris. Somewhere, far from the desert battlefield in the cool blue shadows of the Batcave, Catwoman leans across the console toward Batman. She tells him she's ashamed of her. Batman, surrounded by glowing monitors, turns just enough to look at her before returning to his screens. He answers simply, "No." Catwoman then says, "Then what is it?" Batman stays fixed on the glowing monitors as he explains the case. According to the intel from their hanging man, the stolen plutonium was supposed to be delivered to someone called Dr. 10. Batman scrolls through databases. No Dr. 10 exists, but there is a recently released Arkham inmate, Dr. Simon X. Catwoman presses closer, sliding onto his lap and guiding his face toward her with a hand under his chin, whispering, "Talk to me." Batman, distracted but not resisting, clarifies that X is the Roman numeral for 10, prompting her confusion. I don't understand. Before he answers, 10. She studies him, her voice softer now as she tells him that whatever he's holding back, whatever secret he thinks she won't understand, of all people, she will understand. Batman's only response is a quiet, Later, Batman stands on a stone gargoyle while Catwoman crouches beside him. He lays out the next piece of the puzzle. According to radiation mapping across the atmosphere, Dr. X has set up a new lab in Goodwin Tower, though how he's funding all this plutonium remains a mystery. Across town on the Daily Planet rooftop, Lois reviews a message on her phone while Superman stands beside her. She explains that their contact says he must meet tonight. This so-called Dr. X, and he promises to go on record about a suspiciously successful insurance speculation, but only if she comes alone. Back on the rooftop, Batman tries, unsuccessfully, to create distance. He tells Catwoman she doesn't have to come, reminding her pointedly, "You're not my sidekick." She smiles and corrects him. "No, I'm your partner." Meanwhile, Superman attempts the same line of protective reasoning with Lois. He insists on staying outside the door, reminding her that the radiation-based attacker is tied to this case. Lois pushes back, saying that he doesn't need to be there, but Superman just says, "Let me protect you." Across the rooftops, Catwoman leaps away, calling back, "I know," when Batman mutters that he doesn't need a partner. And in the skies above Metropolis, Lois echoes the same truth to Clark as he carries her through the air. She doesn't need protection, and he quietly repeats, "I know." As Superman carries Lois through the night sky, he begins telling her the story he's been avoiding. Not about villains, but about Batman. He explains that his parents died when he was so young, shot and taken from him before he even understood the world. At the same time, Batman and Catwoman glide between skyscrapers, and he continues the same story from his perspective, saying that Superman's whole planet was destroyed, leaving him the last survivor of a Holocaust. Superman goes on, saying he was raised alone, a child in a vast mansion filled with only memories, trying to hold on to the faint warmth of his mother and father. Batman contrasts this, saying Clark grew up surrounded by dirt and isolation, discovering piece by piece how different he truly was. A stranger to the world, learning every day just how strange he felt inside. The narration moves between them as they fly, Superman saying Bruce had love and it was stolen from him, leaving behind someone who should, by all rights, have become a killer, someone who could have torn the world apart for what it took from him. Batman counters that he has the power to do exactly that, with nothing but a pinky. This isn't his world, and the humans aren't his people. To someone like Superman, they should be ants. But Superman descends toward the skyscraper entrance, finishing the thought. And yet he took that pain, that shock of death, and he turned it into hope. And on the rooftop above, Batman and Catwoman land as Bruce adds, "Imagine that. Always being on the outside, the pain that would come from always being on the outside. And yet, he took that pain and became the symbol of hope." Batman forces open a service panel with a screwdriver, continuing his quiet confession as he works. He says that he's just a rich kid from the city, someone who always knew his parents, always knew who he was and who he was supposed to become. Superman and Lois enter the building as Superman says that he had the love of his parents, Ma and Pa Kent guiding him the whole way. He had laughter, lessons, and a childhood built on warmth. Batman drops into the elevator shaft as he continues, explaining he didn't have any choice but to be who he is, but Superman did. He had every choice. He became who he is. Meanwhile, Clark tells Lois that he had powers. He had to do this. But Batman, all he has are his wits and his will, and yet he chooses to do this. As they descend through the shaft, Batman says, "Every kid is inspired by him." While Superman waits for the elevator, he says, "Everyone wants to be him." Batman scales downward and says, "He's a better man than I am." And inside the elevator, Superman finishes the same thought almost at the same moment. "He's just a better man than I am." Lois stands beside Superman, listening closely as he finally admits the fear he's been carrying. He says Batman got engaged and he never called. That's his way. Batman's way of saying they aren't friends. Not really. As Superman speaks, Batman pries open the elevator door, grunting that you can't be friends with Superman. He continues, "Not when you're... He doesn't need to congratulate me. Look at me. Who am I compared to him?" Meanwhile, Superman just says, "He is who he is. He doesn't need a friend. He isn't like me." Batman pulls the heavy door open and mutters, "He's Superman." And as the elevator door opens, Superman says, "He's Batman." The twin elevator doors slide open at the exact same moment, Superman and Lois stepping out of one, Batman and Catwoman emerging from the other. The four of them freeze, staring across the corridor at each other in total surprise. Superman blinks first, genuinely confused, and asks how he didn't see them coming. Batman then says, "You took the elevator? You're not supposed to see me." Superman explains that if he flew in, he would have had to break a window just to reach this floor. A long, awkward silence follows, until Lois steps forward with a warm smile and immediately diffuses the tension. She introduces herself to Catwoman, offering her a hand. "Oh hi, I'm Lois. You must be Catwoman." Catwoman mirrors the gesture, raising her hand. Before Lois and Catwoman's handshake can land, the corridor erupts in a violent blast. A wave of fire and debris tears through the space. Two figures burst from the smoke, shouting over each other, one screaming, "Today, everyone dies!" while the other one raises his arm and declares, "At the hand of Dr. Double X." Superman glances at Batman and asks, "Vengeance is the night?" Batman, completely deadpan, fires back, "Up, up, and away." And just like that, the two heroes move in perfect sync. Superman rockets forward and punches one attacker square in the face, sending him flying backwards, while Batman lands a brutal strike on the second, knocking him out cold in a single hit. The villains collapse beside each other, dazed, tiny cartoon stars practically spinning over their heads. Superman then looks at everyone and asks, "So, you all want to go get a bite to eat?" Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.